The receipt was folded twice and crammed behind the blender in our kitchen drawer, the same drawer where we keep pens that don't work and manuals for appliances we no longer own. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for batteries. But there it was, wedged between a lint-covered paperclip and a rogue Tylenol packet, a receipt for a gold bracelet. It wasn't for me. The date said Tuesday. Tuesday, she told me she was working late on a design proposal. She came home with paint smudges on her hand and a headache excuse. I heated up leftover soup and she fell asleep on the couch before finishing half of it. But apparently, somewhere between that headache and the couch nap, she found time to buy a $280 bracelet. And according to the receipt, with the little gift box ticked and a printed to E scribbled in bubbly handwriting, she didn't buy it for herself. That's when the floor shifted under me. I didn't yell. I didn't storm into the living room with the paper in my hand like some movie scene. I just stood there in that dumb yellow kitchen light and stared at that receipt like it was whispering secrets in a language I should have learned years ago. My stomach didn't drop. It twisted slow, quiet, like a key turning in a lock I didn't know existed. I put the receipt back exactly where I found it. Not because I was afraid to confront her, but because something inside me whispered, not yet. Over the next week, I started watching differently. Listening more. Marlene, the woman who always said, I don't have time for games, had apparently become a world-class illusionist. She made whole hours disappear. Said she was exhausted but spent 45 minutes in the bathroom getting ready to run to the store. Her phone stayed on silent. Her eyes stayed somewhere else. Every time I asked if she wanted to go for dinner, she said, I'm swamped. Every time I suggested we take a walk, she said, maybe this weekend. Every time I tried to reach her, she was too tired, too busy, or in the middle of something. So I tried something new. The next time she asked if I could cover her half of the grocery bill just this once, I looked her right in the eyes and said, sorry, I don't have the money. She blinked. Confused. Like I had just spoken in riddles. And I said it again the next time she asked for help with her gas. And again when her favorite skincare box auto-renewed and she forgot to cancel. Sorry, I don't have the money. That phrase, it became a mirror. Because for months, maybe years, every time I needed her, she told me she didn't have the time. Now the currency had flipped. And it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about money. It was about the quiet, aching realization that I had been footing the bill emotionally, mentally, financially for someone who gave me breadcrumbs in return. And when I stopped paying, that's when things really fell apart. But the most disturbing part? She didn't get angry. She got nervous. Which told me one thing, this wasn't about money at all. This was about the balance of power and how my refusal to fund her world forced her to step into the one she'd been hiding. I wasn't looking for anything. That's the part that stings the most. I wasn't playing detective or snooping or tracking her with some app like the guys in the movies do. I was just trying to be helpful. Her keys were sitting on the table and she had left in such a rush that morning I figured I'd be nice and fill up her gas tank. It was running on fumes the night before. That's what husbands do, right? We pick up the little things. Gas tanks. Dishes. Emotional slack. And in return, we get a smile. Maybe a thank you. Maybe even a hug. So I slid into her car, adjusted the seat, she always pushes it so far forward it feels like a punishment, and pulled out of the driveway. It smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar. Musky. Sharp. Definitely not her usual floral vanilla lotion scent. But I chalked it up to maybe her trying a new fragrance or spilling something. I got to the station, filled it up, and as I was tossing a napkin into the back seat, I saw it, a hoodie balled up in the corner behind the passenger seat. At first, I smiled. She was always misplacing things. But when I reached for it, it hit me. The scent. That same unfamiliar cologne. Strong. Like someone had worn it heavily, freshly sprayed. Not subtle. Not hers. I unfolded the hoodie. Men's size. Definitely not mine. Not even close. A gym logo on the chest I didn't recognize. And in the pocket? A used movie ticket. 1 week old. The same night she told me she was working late with a client and would probably grab something quick from the deli. A movie. With someone else. While I was home trying to scrub the grout in the bathroom because she mentioned it looked a little moldy. I sat there in that gas station lot with the receipt in one hand and the hoodie on my lap, feeling like a character in someone else's life. Like some idiot sidekick in a story I didn't realize I wasn't even the lead in anymore. I drove home. Quiet. Numb. Didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more than a hoodie and a hunch. I needed. I don't know. A confession? A slap of reality? A reason? That night I tried to act normal. I made pasta. She barely touched it. Said she had zero appetite. I nodded. I watched her scroll through her phone while I ate. I think she laughed at something she read. And that laugh, the same one she used to give me during movie nights or when I mispronounced fancy wine names, now it just sounded recycled. Like it had been handed out earlier in the day and I was getting the leftover version. So I tested something. A small poke. Hey, remember that movie we wanted to see? The one with the detective and the twist ending. She didn't even look up. Just said, oh that? Heard it got bad reviews. I stared at her, but she was still scrolling. The same movie, I realized from the ticket stub. And it hit me, she had seen it. With someone else. And she wasn't just hiding that from me, she was erasing the version of us that ever wanted to see it together. And for some reason, it wasn't the cheating that broke me. It was the erasure. She wasn't just having someone else, she was removing me from memories we hadn't even had yet. The next morning, she asked if I could send her half of the electric bill. I looked at her like she had spoken in French. Can't, I said calmly. Don't have it. She paused. What do you mean? I mean I don't have the money. You said you'd handle it this month. She squinted like I was shifting into a different language. I didn't blink. It's amazing how fast her demeanor changed. For months I'd been the ATM that said yes. Now I was an empty screen flashing insufficient funds, and suddenly I mattered again, but only as a service she no longer had access to. What she said next chilled me to my bones. She muttered, this isn't the time for you to start acting different. Start? No. This was me finally acting honest. And the more I pulled back, the more her mask slipped. Her tablet was never something I paid attention to. It mostly sat untouched on the side table in our bedroom, buried under magazines and old receipts. Marlene used it when she wanted to sketch furniture ideas or scroll Pinterest without killing her phone battery. It wasn't locked and she never took it out of the house. To me, it was just another screen, another piece of tech I occasionally dusted off when I vacuumed around it. But that night, after the hoodie, after the gas station, after the electric bill standoff, the tablet became a window I wasn't prepared to look through. She had left for a supposed team dinner, dressed in her usual neutral tones, hair curled just enough, a little lip gloss, subtle perfume, all those details she never bothered with when it was just me she was around. I sat alone on the couch, the TV murmuring some sitcom in the background, my eyes not really watching. My brain wouldn't slow down. That hoodie. That ticket. Her brush off about the movie. I kept chewing on it all like a mouthful of glass I didn't know how to spit out. Then the tablet pinged. I didn't even think. I picked it up instinctively, assuming it was some spam notification. But it wasn't. It was a chat app one didn't recognize, something with a sleek icon, not the usual messages or WhatsApp. One of those private ones people use when they don't want things seen. The screen was already open, mid-conversation, because she must have been using it right before she left. 3 messages. Just 3. Ethan, you looked unbelievable last night. That little skirt is officially my weakness. Marlene, then I'll wear it next time, if you behave. Ethan, your husband have any idea where you really are tonight? No emojis. No winks. Just pure, stripped-back confidence. It wasn't the playfulness that gutted me, it was the normalcy of it. Like this wasn't new. Like this wasn't some one-time mistake. Like he had every reason to believe she'd lie to me again. And that she would. My chest went cold. I didn't scroll any further. I couldn't. I set the tablet down gently as if it were a bomb that might detonate if handled carelessly. My fingers were trembling, but my face was blank. Numb. Still. Like the part of my brain that usually processed pain had unplugged itself to spare me the breakdown. I sat there, hours maybe, until I heard her come through the front door. She dropped her purse, slipped off her heels like always, and padded into the kitchen to grab a drink. I stayed silent. I didn't move. Eventually, she walked into the living room and blinked when she saw me awake. Oh, she said casually, you're still up. I nodded slowly. She didn't ask why. She didn't even look long. Just walked past me and into the bedroom. Not a single word about the tablet, which still sat exactly where I left it. That confirmed it all. She didn't expect to be found out. She didn't even consider I might see her anymore. I was invisible. Background noise. And somehow that realization hurt more than the betrayal itself. Later that night, lying beside her in bed, both of us staring at the ceiling in silence, I whispered, "Do you love me?" She didn't answer. Not because she was asleep, I could feel her muscles tense beside me. She heard. She just chose not to respond. Not even a lie. Not even a deflection. Just nothing. I didn't ask again. The next morning I got up early. I made coffee. I did the dishes. I folded her laundry. I even hung her keys by the door like always. And when she asked if I could transfer her half of the internet bill before noon, I looked her straight in the eyes and said, sorry, don't have the money. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. It was about realizing I had been funding not just a lifestyle, but a fantasy, her fantasy, where she got to play single while I played sponsor. The thing about trust is that it dies quietly. Not in dramatic explosions or slamming doors like in the movies, but in subtle cracks, quiet moments when you realize you're the only one still playing by the rules. That morning, she left her phone charging on the windowsill while she showered. It buzzed twice and I didn't mean to look. I swear, I really didn't. But after everything, the messages, the hoodie, the silence in bed, it wasn't curiosity anymore. It was self-preservation. I picked it up. Not to search, but just to see if I still existed in any part of her world. Any photos. Any texts. Any corner of her digital life where I hadn't been erased or replaced. The wallpaper was no longer the photo of us in the Smokies, it was just some minimalist beige swirl now. Cold. Empty. I don't even remember her changing it. I guess that's how far gone things were. But it was the gallery that really broke me. I opened the photo app, thumb hesitating over recents. And what I saw there didn't punch me in the gut. No, it burned. The first image was her. Mirror selfie. Lingerie I'd never seen. She was smirking, one eyebrow raised. Confident. The kind of confident you don't manufacture for yourself, the kind you wear for someone else. A second photo, same pose, but this time she was biting her lip. These weren't just saved, they were favorited. Next came a burst of candids, her in a hotel room I didn't recognize, with a man's legs visible at the edge of the frame. His shoes still on. Her wine glass tipped sideways on the bed. She had captioned it, "You take the worst pics, but I like this one." Then came the photo that ended any doubt I had left. It was him. Shirtless. Holding a takeout container. Sitting in our backyard. My backyard. In my lawn chair. Wearing my old college t-shirt. The one I thought I lost at the laundromat months ago. He was smiling, not just casually, but with a look of total comfort, like this wasn't his first time there. Like this place was just another stop on a well-worn routine. His hand was stretched out toward the camera mid-motion like he had just cracked a joke. The photo was warm, sunlit, natural. It looked like something a wife might post on social media with the caption, "My person." I nearly dropped the phone. Not because of rage. Not because I wanted to scream. But because of this new kind of heartbreak I'd never felt before, a layered one. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was domestic. Intimate. She didn't just cheat on me, she shared my space with someone else. My mug, my yard, my stolen shirt. And she smiled through it all like none of it mattered. I set the phone down. Right where she left it. And I walked out. Not out the front door, not yet, but out of the lie. I went into the garage, sat in the cold silence, and let the air fill my lungs while the grief clawed at my chest. And I realized something strange. I wasn't even angry at him. I was angry at me. At the man who thought doing the dishes and paying bills made him valuable. At the man who thought loyalty was a love language in itself. And what haunted me most was this: I had made myself easy to leave. Predictable. Soft. Generous. A non-threat. A wallet with a heartbeat. Later that day, she came home smiling. Told me she had a funny story from brunch. I watched her pour herself a drink, laugh at something on her phone, then sit on the couch like the world was perfectly balanced. She had no idea what I had seen. She didn't sense the shift in me yet. But I was done playing nice. That evening, she asked if I could spot her for a delivery tip. I looked her in the eyes and said with absolute stillness, "Not anymore." Her face barely reacted. Just a blink. Then a shrug. "You okay?" I nodded. Never better. It was a Tuesday night when I finally cracked. Not because anything particularly dramatic happened. She didn't stumble in drunk or forget our anniversary or come home with lipstick on her collar. No, it was just quiet. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that hums just before something breaks. She was sitting on the other end of the couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling on her phone like always. And I was watching her, not with anger anymore, but with something closer to awe. Awe that someone could lie so easily and live so comfortably beside the man they were betraying. That's when I said it. "I saw the pictures, Marlene." I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just dropped the sentence into the silence like a pebble into a still lake. She didn't look up at first. I saw her thumb pause mid-scroll. Her shoulders tightened just barely and then relaxed. "What pictures?" she asked without lifting her gaze. I could feel my jaw tighten. "The ones of him. Of you. In the hotel room. In our backyard. In my shirt." Now she looked up. Her eyes scanned mine like she was trying to measure how much I knew, how far she needed to run, or how much of a show she needed to put on. But there was no guilt in her eyes. No panic. No shame. Just calculation. A slow, robotic blink. Then a small sigh. I was going to tell you. It wasn't a lie. It was a strategy. Tell me what, exactly? I asked, my voice finally rising. That you've been bringing him here? That you let him wear my clothes? That you were lying every single time you said you were too tired or too busy? She didn't flinch. It wasn't like that. I laughed, hollow and humorless. Wasn't like what, Marlene? You accidentally fell into a months-long affair and he tripped into my lawn chair. That's when she finally put the phone down. You stopped showing up, she said, slowly, like I was a child being taught something basic. You became dull, predictable. I didn't want to leave you, Gerald, I just wanted to feel seen again. I stared at her. My brain didn't even know how to process that sentence. You wanted to feel seen, I repeated. So you cheated on me. In our house. With some gym rat who wears my clothes. And I'm the one who stopped showing up. She leaned forward, her tone suddenly hard. When was the last time you actually touched me without asking first? When was the last time you did something unexpected or exciting or passionate instead of just paying another bill and folding my socks? It hit me like a punch to the stomach. Because somewhere, buried beneath the cruelty, was the terrifying truth I had feared for months. I had made myself so easy to walk away from. So accommodating. So safe. I had erased every sharp edge of myself just to make her life smoother. And in doing so, I had become invisible. You know what? I said after a long pause. You're right. She looked at me, confused now. What? You're absolutely right, I said, nodding. I did become predictable. I did everything right, Marlene. I stayed. I cleaned. I worked. I paid. I gave. And when you said you didn't have time, I didn't argue. I understood. Because that's what husbands are supposed to do, right? Be patient. Be steady. I stood up slowly. But I see now that kind of love only works when both people are still in the room. She folded her arms, her eyes narrowing. So what? You're leaving now? This is your dramatic little moment. No, I said quietly. I'm not leaving. And her eyes lit up for a split second. Relief. Control. She thought she still had it. I'm evicting you. That's when the blood drained from her face. You're joking. I'm not. I've been paying for this house entirely for over a year now. Your name's not on the lease. The bills? I've got every statement. And that bank account you've been using? I shut it down this morning. The credit card? Cancelled. And the spa subscription? Hope you enjoyed the last visit. She stood up then, disbelief twisting her mouth. You're being insane. I tilted my head. You were right. I was predictable. But not anymore. She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. But I didn't follow. I didn't shout. I just sat back down, picked up the remote, and turned the volume up. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was reclaiming the space she had been using like a set for her side romance. That night, she didn't come out. I heard her crying at some point. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe fear. Or maybe she just realized the free ride was finally over. But the next morning, what she did then? That was the moment I realized I hadn't just been married to a liar. I'd been married to a stranger. The morning after everything cracked open, I expected a storm. Doors slamming. Screaming. A dramatic suitcase being flung down the stairs. But it was the opposite. She was calm. Too calm. Like someone who had already played the scene out in her head and decided which mask to wear for maximum control. She emerged from the bedroom dressed in business casual, makeup lightly done, coffee in hand like she hadn't just been exposed as a full-blown fraud. I sat at the kitchen table watching her. She didn't look at me. Instead, she picked up her phone, typed something quickly, then casually said, I'm staying at Maya's for a few days. I think we both need space. That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just a graceful exit line, rehearsed like a speech for a job interview. She grabbed her tote bag, keys, then paused by the door. For what it's worth, she said over her shoulder, you're not innocent in all of this either. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut like the final scene in a play, the kind where the protagonist dies and the audience leaves confused instead of satisfied. I sat there for a full hour letting her words echo. You're not innocent either. That sentence burrowed under my skin like a splinter. Was it her last attempt at guilt-tripping me? Her way of rewriting history to give herself an excuse? Eventually, I got up, walked into the bedroom, and stood in the doorway. The bed was half-made, like always. Her perfume still lingered in the air, light, floral, dishonest. I scanned the room, not even sure what I was looking for. Closure? Evidence? Something human? That's when I noticed the drawer of her nightstand was slightly ajar. I walked over, pulled it open, and inside was the usual clutter. Hairbands, a receipt from Sephora, half a protein bar. But underneath it all, tucked under an old notebook, was a letter. Handwritten. Folded twice. No envelope. It was addressed to someone named Ethan. I unfolded it slowly, hands already shaking. Ethan, I wish I could say I'm sorry, but I'm not. You've made me feel something again. Something alive. Gerald doesn't see me anymore, he hasn't for years. He just drifts through the house like a ghost, trying to impress me with clean dishes and grocery receipts. It's exhausting pretending to want that life. Your fire. Your escape. And even if this is messy, at least it's real. If things go the way I think they will, I'll be free soon. I just need a few more weeks to wrap things up. He's starting to pull away, which honestly helps. He won't fight. He never does. See you Thursday. M. I sank onto the bed, the paper still trembling in my hand. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't even just the affair. It was the fact that she had planned this. Played me like a worn-out role in a script she was writing with someone else. She had predicted my silence, counted on my emotional passivity. And I had played right into it. But what hit me hardest, what almost made me laugh through the ache, was the part about freedom. She was planning to leave, yes. But only after she had lined up comfort elsewhere. After she was sure she wouldn't fall. The escape wasn't about courage. It was about strategy. She was treating our marriage like a lease. Break it when the next place is secured. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stood up and walked over to her side of the closet. I took out her suitcase and opened it on the bed. Then I went to every drawer, every shelf, every cabinet she'd claimed as hers, and I packed her things. Not haphazardly. Not in anger. But with precision. This wasn't about hurting her. This was about reclaiming my home. I placed the letter on top of the suitcase, folded neatly. Then I changed the locks. By the time she texted 3 hours later, forgot my charger, can I swing by? I had already boxed everything she left behind and left it with the building manager. I replied only once. Your things are with reception. You can pick them up until 6. After that, they're not my problem. She didn't respond. But later that night, something even more unexpected happened. Her mother called me. I hadn't spoken to her in months. Marlene had always said they weren't close. But she left a voicemail I'll never forget. Her voice was quiet, almost regretful. Gerald, I don't know what happened, but I've suspected something wasn't right for a while now. If she left, maybe that's for the best. I just hope you're okay. And for what it's worth, you deserve better. You always did. It took me hours to process that. But it also planted a question in my mind. What did her mother know that I didn't? 3 days passed. 3 full days since I packed her things, changed the locks, and dropped the curtain on the life I thought I had. I was expecting anger, maybe some kind of revenge. I thought she'd come pounding at the door with threats or tears or one of those tantrums designed to rewrite the narrative, to make herself the victim in a story where she was the only one holding the knife. But nothing came. No texts. No calls. No sudden appearances in our neighborhood pretending to just be passing through. Except for her mother. After that strange voicemail, the one where she said I deserved better, I spent a full night debating whether to call her back. It felt weird, wrong even. This woman had only been in our lives peripherally. Marlene always said they weren't close. That her mom was too old-fashioned, too judgmental, too something. I'd only met her a handful of times, and those interactions had been distant but polite. A few compliments on the house. A passing hug during holidays. Nothing more. Still, something about her voice stayed with me. The way she said, I've suspected something wasn't right for a while. Like there was a shadow trailing behind her words. So, on a foggy Thursday morning, I called her back. She picked up after one ring. I was hoping you would, she said. We agreed to meet at a diner halfway between our towns. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe more vague sympathy, a couple of awkward condolences, and a quiet goodbye. What I got was a story that cracked my spine in two. She arrived early, already seated at a booth with a cup of black coffee. No sugar, no cream. Her posture was stiff, but her eyes were soft, tired. She didn't hug me, but she reached across the table and touched my hand. I'm sorry, she said, but also, I'm not surprised. That alone made my stomach tighten. I asked her what she meant, and she let out this long, weary breath. Then she began to talk, slowly, like someone lifting the lid off a box she had buried a long time ago. Marlene's always had this way, she said, a way of turning people into reflections. She'd show them exactly what they wanted to see. Play the perfect daughter, the perfect student, the perfect partner. But it was never about connection. It was about control. She learned early that being what people wanted made them give her things. Love, money, time. I blinked. But I thought you two weren't close. We weren't. Not because I didn't try, but because I saw it too early. When she was 16, she lied to an older man, told him she was 19, and when I found out, she told everyone I was jealous. Said I didn't want her to be happy, that I was bitter and controlling. She turned the whole family against me, even her own father. That was the first time I lost her. I sat there, barely breathing. She doesn't know how to stop once it works, her mother continued. The pattern always repeats. She finds someone kind, someone dependable, someone who needs her. And then she starts testing how far she can push, how much she can take. And when she senses it's running dry, she moves on. But not before finding someone new to orbit around. Like Ethan, I muttered. Her mother's face tightened. I don't know the name, but I know the profile. And Gerald, I need to tell you something else. Something she would never admit. I leaned in, bracing. She wasn't planning on staying with him. What? She's done this before. Twice. She latches onto someone new, builds this little fantasy world, drains the novelty dry, and when it gets real, bills, routines, expectations, she ghosts, moves on, leaves the wreckage behind. She did it to a man before you. Nice guy, stable job, even talked about kids. And one day she packed a bag, left a note, and disappeared. He called me in tears, thinking she'd been kidnapped. But she wasn't. She was just finished. It hit me like a brick wall. This wasn't about me. It was never really about him either. It was about the cycle. She was an emotional arsonist. Set fire to one home just to feel the warmth of another. She told me once, her mother whispered, that falling in love is only fun when someone else has more to lose. That's the only way it feels exciting. My heart sank. Everything made sense now. The indifference, the affair, the calm when I finally stood up for myself. I wasn't an exception. I was a phase. I was another rung on the ladder she climbed when she got bored of looking down. I'm sorry you went through this, her mother said quietly. I really am. You didn't deserve it. Couldn't even respond. The rage wasn't hot anymore, it was cold. Thick, like oil in my lungs. We sat in silence for a long time. Then I asked the one question that had been crawling through my mind like a parasite. Do you think she ever loved me? Her mother didn't answer right away. Then, with a softness that somehow hurt more than a blow, she said, she loved what you gave her. But I don't think she ever knew how to love you. I nodded slowly. That was the closest to closure I would ever get. When I drove home, I passed a flower shop. The same one I used to stop at every Friday, out of habit, out of hope, just to bring home something small to make her smile. I looked at the sign in the window. Special this week, tulips. Symbol of forgiveness. I parked for a moment. I stared at that sign. Then I pulled away. She came back on a Sunday. It had been exactly 12 days since I saw her last. The morning she stood at our door with that indifferent little smirk and said she'd be staying at Maya's. I hadn't heard a word from her since. Not a text. Not a call. Not even one of those passive-aggressive Venmo requests she used to send with emojis that masked their bitterness. Silence. But on that Sunday morning, the silence ended. I heard the soft knock on the door just after 10. I was halfway through a coffee and halfway through a crossword I wasn't even trying to finish. I knew it was her the second the knock landed. I didn't rush. I stood, walked to the door, and took one breath before opening it. There she stood. Same coat. Hair pulled into a soft bun. Neutral lipstick. And a carry-on suitcase behind her that I recognized from the last trip she told me was work-related. In her hands, a paper coffee tray with 2 cups and a blueberry muffin. Hey, she said gently, as if she were returning from a normal weekend away. Can we talk? I looked at the coffee, the muffin, the curated softness in her voice, the performance. Sure, I said, stepping aside. She walked in like she still owned the air in the room. She placed the coffee on the table, pulled her usual cardigan off the back of the chair, and sat down like we were just a couple working through a disagreement. Like we just needed to say the right lines in the right order and everything would fall back into place. I've been thinking, she started, about everything. And I think we lost each other somewhere. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I didn't give you enough credit. But I also think we were both just drifting. You withdrew and I didn't know how to reach you. I didn't interrupt. I let her keep going. I made mistakes. I'll admit that. But I don't think we're broken beyond repair. I really don't. I've been talking to a therapist. I've been journaling. And I know I want to try again. If you're willing to, start over. She leaned forward, hands together, eyes locked on mine. We can rebuild this. If you'll forgive me. The old me, the man she remembered, would have melted right there. Would have grabbed her hands, said something poetic and tragic, and decided that loving someone meant enduring whatever damage they brought into the house. But I wasn't that man anymore. I don't hate you, Marlene, I said quietly. I want you to know that. Her shoulders relaxed slightly, the beginning of relief slipping across her lips. But I don't love you anymore either. Her face changed. Not in shock, she was too practiced for that. But I saw her hands grip each other a little tighter. I saw her chest rise. You used to, she whispered. I did, I nodded. With everything I had. But the man you're talking to now, the one who finally saw himself as worth protecting, he doesn't belong to you anymore. There was a long pause. I thought you'd wait for me, she said softly, almost like a child. I did, I replied. And in that waiting, I realized I was the only one who ever really stayed. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at me for a long time. Then slowly she stood. Picked up the coffee she brought me, looked at it like it might matter again, and then set it back down without a word. She rolled her suitcase to the door and opened it. Before stepping out, she turned one last time. I hope you find someone who makes you feel seen, she said. I already did, I said, smiling gently. Me. The door closed quietly. That night, I sat on the same couch, the same one we used to share, and watched a movie I'd been putting off for months. I laughed out loud. I ordered dinner from a place I'd always wanted to try but never suggested because she didn't like spicy food. I played my favorite record. I called a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. And when I climbed into bed alone, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just peace. Because healing doesn't always come with grand gestures or apologies. Sometimes it comes from choosing yourself quietly, completely, and without shame. And for the first time in years, I had time for me. And no one could take that away again.